And now, last but not least, our colleagues from the EPFL, Frédéric Kaplan and Isabella di Lenardo. So it's nice to find again next to Frédéric here. We were co-organizers of the DH 2014. Several of you were present at this opportunity. Frédéric is the director of the DH Lab at the EPFL and assistant professor in digital humanities. And Isabella di Lenardo is a postdoc research associate to several projects of Frédéric's, and mainly this one we will hear about. Thank you to be here.
To pass. Oh, no, there's this one. Okay. That no, that one is fine. Okay. Thanks a lot. Let us just pass here. Okay, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk a bit about MOOCs again. We're going to talk about Time Machine MOOCs, which is a MOOC which currently we are registering in Lausanne and in Venice. It's part of a global context, which is this Time Machine flagship, which is that project we tried to set up with over 80 institutions across Europe about making a kind of global European time machine. And the idea is to have some form of open source code and platform that different cities can actually use to progressively make very accessible their past. We've been working on Venice specifically for the last 4 years, and the MOOC itself is centered as Venice as an example, but it has that ambition potentially to bring this method in different places in the world. So what is extremely interesting about MOOCs is their outreach. I mean, here you have an example from 2014. It's already quite past. We passed this number where more than 1 million registration were just for the EPFL MOOCs. We know that among those, I mean, not every student go till the end of the MOOC, but still, it's a big coverage, and it's a very international coverage. So one of the idea we are trying to explore through that MOOCs is how much actually we can use this not only as a way for teaching, but also as a way of connecting thousands of students with the millions of documents we have in the first place in Venice, but also in different places in the world. And so essentially, it's a MOOC which is oriented towards skills, very practical skills, actually the skills which are needed to interact with the Time Machine platform. And these are skills to process ancient documents that can apply in the Venetian case, but also in other cases in the world. It's based a bit on some work we've been doing in the past. I've been working 6 years with Pierre Dilambour before creating the Digital Humanities Laboratory. And one of the key ideas of Pierre Dilambour is the idea of script. That means that most teaching sequences can be seen as a series of operations. He recently published a book called Orchestration Graph, where you talk specifically about how one can model scalable education. And a key idea, without going into detail, is that you can see any teaching sequence as a script which has a form of parameterized element. And it's actually interesting because with that MOOC, we've been trying a lot of different ideas, and you'll see about having in-studio video, having in-situ video, having interactive elements. And to be frank, we're not sure at all about what are the most effective. The nice thing is that we can measure that because we have rather precise skill assessment technique, and we can actually see which one are more effective, even in smaller detail. I mean, how long needs to be an explanation, etc., etc. The idea is that the more students use the platform, the more efficient, in the end, the teaching script become. So, to explain a bit maybe more clearly or give an illustration of what we're trying to teach to the student, well, it's essentially that big idea is that if you can connect documents about the past with one another, then you can do very interesting things to reconstruct the past. Here we've been zooming in 2016 over Venice. We've been seeing a picture which is taken in Piazza San Giacometto. We've been going to a cloud point. Then we've been doing a transition to a Canaletto painting of the same place, and now we're in 1740 based on the model we built based on the information from there. It's always a line in the model of 2016, which is also a line on the cadastre of Venice from 1808. We're traveling through time. We're going now on the Rialto neighborhood, now 9006. 9006 is a particular shop where we found in the registers the Sommarioni that Francesco Raspi was actually the owner of that shop. We actually find in 1740 there's another Francesco Raspi, which is the grand grandson of the first one, which is also on the bridge. And so although we don't have any cadastre at that period, we are capable of putting that Francesco Raspi at the right place and progressively solving this giant puzzle, which is a reconstruction of the past. So this is essentially that kind of skills we want to have the students learning, because they are very generic one, and there's a starting point to actually progressively connecting document with one another.
Yeah, no, I think that is good. Okay. So what is the pipeline of the course? So we have 5 weeks. The general idea is to discover, first of all, what is an archive, in this specific case, the Venetian State Archive in Venice, of course. And then during the week 2, discover all about what is a document and how many documents we have in this archive, and how we can annotate them, and so on. Week 3, all about maps, so all about space in general. What is a map? What is an action map? How we can realign these maps on a digital cadastre of now, so in this case, again, in Venice. And then we have week 4 dedicated to paintings and photographs, but more in general dedicated to the iconographic sources. And then during the week 5, we have the integration of all these kind of sources in time and space. We have several different media for this explanation. We have explanations in studios, so at the EPFL room recording. We have explanations in situ in Venice, and we have different practical exercise in a virtual Venice, thanks to the 360 degrees bubbles shooting in Venice. We have practical exercise that the students have to do in our local environment. So each student can contribute to the general global time machine, going in its archive, so in the archive of its city, and uploading documents, uploading iconographic sources, and etc. During the week 1, we have, in this case, the introduction to the MOOC, shooting in the Rialto district, where we explain what was the first settlement of the city, all about historical contents, and all about the introduction to the city, its history, and its sources, its historical sources.
And it's in French and in Italian. So we were talking about this. So we've been. It's not only it's a bilingual MOOC, which you have the option to have the dubbed English version, but it's on voiceover, and we decided to record in our native languages.
Yeah,
not like today.
In studio, we have different kind of contents and topics. For example, the big question: how we can transform an archive in an information system, or how we can realign historical documents on the 3D reconstruction of the city. Then we have preview practical series of practical exercise. Here you are seeing walking through Venice, in this case from San Marco to Rialto, and here the students can navigate to in this 360 degrees bubble and discover the city, the actual Venice, and with all the functions of a common system, where you can see, you can zoom in, zoom out to see several details at an architectural scale, and you can also move to another bubble, and during this this walking, and see other architectural element of the city. What is the exercise? The exercise is to understand the difference between the present and the past and compare the city of now with the city of the past through, in this case, an iconographic source that is the painting by Canaletto.
And then each week finish with some form of practical exercise. So we teach two things at the end of the first week. 3D modeling. Again, we explained how with a simple smartphone you can actually take several pictures of the same place and produce a photogrammetric representation like this one, potentially very high resolution. And that's something that the students need to do then directly in their local place. That means that all the points you've been seeing beforehand becomes initial start for initial 3D modeling that they can do directly by submitting the image. And the same thing also for the modeling of the local, let's say, archival environment of where they are. I mean, they are asked to actually go and see which are the closest sources of information, what are the oldest documents they have, what are the typography, and progressively, again, this is creating a local map in comparison of what we have directly in Venice, the idea being to progressively map in Europe, in the rest of the world, this type of information. Then week 2. It's
week 2 is concerning documents, all about documents. In the State Archive, we have 80 kilometers of documents from 9th century to now, more or less. And so how we can approach all this mass of data, how we can transform data, historical data, in an information system.
And so the idea, I mean, is that, again, the same way they were immersed in Venice, they directly immersed in the archive itself. They actually see the intervention directly of the directors, I mean, and see the different people explaining the story, and they see the everyday actions of the people which are annotating the document. This is directly the type of skills we're teaching, how to segment a document, I mean, how you can actually come with a register of cadastre like this, and progressively learn how to transform it into a table reconstructing the population, or how you can annotate the content of a document, finding simple things. I mean, we don't teach, of course, codicology or paleography, but how to recognize when you have somebody which is a person, a place, or a date, and progressively map this information, even if you're not an historian or an expert directly in that domain.
During the week 3, we speak about maps. So the Venetian State Archives has several maps starting from Napoleonic cadastre and then maps from Austrian domination, but also before. So we have also registers that contains the number of parcels of each buildings in the city, and then the owner name, and then functions for each buildings, and value, and income, etc., etc. So the learning outcome is how we can align these historical maps on a digital plan of now. So the key point is to introduce the notion of homologous point. So we have homologous point now that serve to align historical cadastre of the 1808, and then also an iconographic source, like in this case, for example, the urban view by Jacopo de Barbari, 1500. Then another important aspect here is to control the vectorization. So because after this first process of alignment, then we start with the vectorization of this cadastral plan, and we have developed in the lab an algorithm to extract automatically each geometries of each parcel and realign each geometry on the actual digital plan of Venice. But we don't have only a parcel extraction, a parcel, a geometry extraction, but also a digit extraction. This is very important because we can realign each number of each parcels with this register and with directly with the line where we know and when we can read and owners, all about the owners, the functions, etc., etc.
So as time is passing, I think you got more or less the idea. I mean, it's essentially that every week you learn basic skills and not extremely sophisticated. They use a lot some of the algorithm we've been developing. In the other weeks, we're going to explain essentially how you can do the same thing for paintings and how you can progressively find homologous points if you have an ancient paintings and a recent photograph, how you can do this directly by mapping both. I mean, the key idea is that they train on these special skills on the Venetian cases. When they get sufficient, I would say, a credential for this, then they can use the platform directly on the Venetian data. And also, and this is the thing which is important, every week they do the same thing on their own local data. So this is an experiment. We don't know exactly how it will be, in the sense that, of course, all these students have very different contextual element, but I think it's going to be exciting. And for us, the thing which is extremely exciting is the idea that potentially through this, not only we have the possibility of having a big number of students, but we have also the possibility of starting small time machine in all these different environments, seeds of time machine, and the more students will have that type of skill, the proximity of that dream, which is to give back that depth to the internet, which is the passage of time, would be potentially a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe just one question before the break.
Thank you. This is very impressive and promising. I have a question about critical analysis of the project, because behind every URL and every connection that is made in this project, there's actually a kind of a research decision that is taken to connect one data with another data and to assume the relevance of a certain document to a certain map and so on. What mechanisms do you have to criticize the outcome, or at least to make the students aware of that this is an outcome of research that might be criticized?
Can I? Okay. Let's say we focused on purpose in the MOOC in the part which I would say is the less difficult and less controversial. I mean, in the actual Venetian project, based on this big graph of connected data, then there is the interpretation element, and we've been reconstructing some neighborhood of Venice, and we've been actually prolongating some biographical trajectory. All this is really the work of the historian, and it's much more difficult because it's much more linked on the actual capability of analysis, understanding the context. Here, we stay at a basic element to some extent, which is the connecting the dots. And most of the basic skills we are teaching are kind of uncontroversial in the sense that, I mean, they may make some mistakes, but they are actually, I mean, they may align differently the two elements. They may be wrong in aligning the maps, but we are not in the level of I would say, sophistication which is needed when you need to do the actual historical interpretation. Still, we believe that if we have that basis, and even if, I mean, some documents are less relevant than others, we have that form of hyperweb or hypertext of this historical document, then based on this, there could be some higher level teaching, and that it's remain open whether this can be taught through MOOCs or through more traditional meanings to progressively start filling the gap and going beyond the actual interconnection of the document, but to actual the historical reinterpretation, which is, of course, more difficult. Yeah.